it's almost like the first thing to remember is first contact is within us. And we've been bouncing around some different ideas about timelines and when, when does some of that data stream and information hit the collective level and like kind of everybody springboards and comes online. And I mean, I appreciate everyone that's reading on this, but at the same time, I think it's something that we create and call in based on our actions and our projects and where we're tuning our energy. And so when somebody said about connecting with star families and really working on that heart coherence, that open heart connection as being like step one to calling that in and to connecting with it personally, because as above, so below, as within, so without. And so the idea is to approach today's grid play call from a space of heart coherence with the intention of connecting with our star family and specifically with their starship that's located here. But we're going to call in the most aligned timeline and only those energies that are resonating in high frequency, in purity, in truth, unconditional love, and divine alignment with the unified field. And so just taking a couple of deep breaths as we drop in.
I got a question real quick. Are you on the right audio? You sound, I think something's, I just want to make sure. I had to turn you up pretty significantly just for the recording piece.
I'm on this mic.
Okay.
Do I sound far away?
Yeah, it sounds, I don't know, but it's okay. Is your headphones flipped around by accidentally? I did that before. Like put them on backwards. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hold on. Is this one any better? Is that better? Can you hear me better when I talk through this?
Maybe the other one was better.
That sounds like a no. Okay, let's try this one. Boom.
That's better.
Also, an internet stability message. So, can you
Yeah.
hear me better when I talk through this?
Yeah, that one's definitely better. Is that the headphones?
Okay. No,
Okay.
it's actually my MacBook mic, so that's good to know.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Perfect. Do I need to recap any of that? Did you hear me okay?
No, I heard you okay. I just had to turn it up.
Okay, so sorry for volume adjustment, people. Friends, thank you. Um, so let's drop in with a couple of deep breaths into our heart space, pulling in the unified field from within us, love from the bottom of our hearts, through our multidimensional field, through our beingness, through our love, connecting at all layers, levels, and dimensions of our field, above and below, within and without, and the full spectrum human that is us. Thinking of any aligned intentions that you may have, questions that you may have for your star family, specific star family members or lineages or energies or anything of that nature that you'd like to start thinking about as we open up into our opening exercise. I wanted to, it dawned on me. I took this amazing training. It was one of the first like spiritual things that I did in my awakening, and this was maybe 5 years ago during COVID. I was turned on to this mentorship program by this place called the Heart Math Institute. And their modality is all about heart coherence. And so, really, it's kind of one of the first things that I learned and helped me springboard a lot of my growth and a lot of my everything so far. And so, I wanted to come back to that because not only is it a really amazing technique and a really great foundational practice, but it's also like what I'm being shown and the way that I'm being reminded about this teaching and this modality and this information is it is like literally the most important thing that we can do for ourselves, for those around us, for our interpersonal communication, for, you know, if we're looking for contact from wherever, the best and most effective uh, and purest way to communicate in this way is from the heart space. And so, any tools that we can utilize for this purpose of developing and cultivating that space and our relationship to it are just super duper important. And so, so thank you. As I pull up my screen so that I can share with you. I didn't have it queued up, so I'm just gonna fix that really quick. Here we go. So I'm just going to play, let's see. For my history, because that's where the video is. Also, I am going to just play a brief example and teaching of this technique here. It's only 5 minutes, just to tap in and get us aligned and calibrated. And then I'm going to post a couple of different short examples to the Telegram so that if you're on the go or you want to sit with this for 10 or 15 minutes, you have a few different ways to do that. And then for now, we will tune in this way. Thanks for your patience. Okay.
Close your eyes.
Let me know about volume.
Unless you're listening to this while you're driving or walking. You can also do it with your eyes open, but for deeper coherence, you can come back to it when you can actually come to a seat and close your eyes. So straight away, you're going to put your awareness and your attention on your heart. And if you feel a bit disconnected from your heart, or if it feels natural to you, you can actually place one or both hands on your heart, your physical, your energetic heart, right in the center of your chest. And again, this alone, starting to go into this practice alone, from the American Journal of Cardiology, shows that we start to rewire our nervous system. We start to awaken the heart just by paying attention to it. And now, keeping your awareness on your heart, we're going to take a few deep breaths, imagining that you're breathing in and out of your heart like a giant lung. So we're going to breathe in and out to start for a count of 5. Nice and simple and slow. So we'll inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one more time, just like that. Inhaling into your heart for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to drop the counting, just continuing to breathe, focusing on your heart, in and out, nice and slowly. And now, as we continue to focus on the heart, I'd like you to recall someone or something that makes you feel appreciation. So appreciation is a mix of gratitude and awe and approval. And it could be a loved one, or just a beautiful moment in nature, or your pet, whatever it is. And whatever makes you recall that energy, once it's there, once you could feel appreciation, which can feel expansive. For me, it feels a little bit tingly, warm. You're going to drop the visual and you're just going to focus on this feeling of appreciation in your heart for just a few moments.
And as we bring up this wonderful modality and we breathe into the gratitude that is present here, I want to just invite everyone to think about the people on this call. Everyone that you know and love from JJ's Lightweaver Global Collective, formerly known as Activations with JJ's Starseed community. Everyone that you know and love from the Limitless Creators, from the Grid Play series. I'm thinking of everyone that has joined all year long when we started them. I'm also thinking of our wonderful in-person travel group that just finished our excursion to the lands of Kemet, formerly known as Egypt. I'm going to stick with this, you guys. You're going to watch and see. Just every single one of you, I'm expressing so much appreciation and gratitude for our memories, for the frequency that you carry, for the energy that you bring to the table, and for everything that you are. Sending you so much love from the bottom of my heart as we come into this space of coherence together. I'm just sitting in this energy of love, admiration, appreciation, connecting my heart with every single one of yours. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you so much for all that you are. Allow yourself to feel that excitement, joy, and inner child coming up as we laugh and sing and play together in our memories, in our golden future. Past, present, and looking forward. Allow yourself to imagine and feel that string of energy now.
And then if you happen to drop out of it, just come back. You can use your recall. Come back into appreciation in your heart. We're going to sustain it for just a few more moments. And take another deep breath in and out of the heart. And take a moment to thank your heart for its amazing wisdom and anything else that spontaneously arises that you want to be appreciative and grateful for. And then when you're ready, you can start to open your eyes.
Lovely. So that is one of my favorite techniques. It is very simple. It is literally just imagining the flow of the light going in and out of your heart as you breathe. A little slower and normal than usual. And allow yourself to feel all that love and gratitude coming through. It's a great way to put you in a center space pretty quickly. It is one of the amazing techniques that I have personally used over the years for a number of different alignments and calibrations. And like I mentioned earlier, it really is kind of a foundational practice. And so definitely encourage and invite everyone to utilize that. Uh, as we step into our intention for today in terms of connecting with our galactic families, throw up in the chat who it is that you are feeling most aligned with calling on today. I'm going to picture them or maybe feel their energy as we think through our specific intentions of who and potentially why we're looking to call on them. Something I was going to suggest is maybe we consider choosing either like a family or a lineage kind of together as a group to help facilitate group co-channeling throughout the remainder of our time together today. And once we have a good idea about that, we are going to ask them to appear to us in the most aligned way and then await their response. Each time we communicate with them, asking for their response and then waiting for it and expressing gratitude for that. And really just looking to connect in through that heart space as we resonate in that frequency of coherence together. So I'd love to hear anybody's intentions.
Well, I can go.
Thank you. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, my intentions would be to just opening sacred space together, setting aside the ego to become an open and clear channel for this session. Free of all distortion, illusion, misalignment, calling in the highest harmonized, organic, golden crystalline diamond and above for our greatest good. Starting to just kind of attune myself to the unified field as well. It's really interesting because, like, as far as like a star family per se, what came to me was choosing one, and we can kind of come to this together. Choosing one that isn't like one that we normally connect to, because I normally have my go-to that I connect to, and I have like a direct connection. So maybe choosing another family or lineage that isn't normally like so readily available, and then kind of weaving that and gridding that for the purposes of our intention here today. So definitely open to working with any of the star families that are aligned with our intentions, with our co-weaving, with our co-channeling session. And then hearing the dolphins step forward first. The whales are always very close behind and intimately weaved together with them as well, which is interesting because they were in my dreams last night. So yeah, that's my own personal intention. Would love to hear your intention so we can weave that together. I'm complete.
Yes, thank you for that. What's been stepping forward in this moment is kind of from an Arcturian channel. So one thing I was going to suggest is I found this channeling session that Emilio Ortiz did with a woman named Pamela Aralin. And she's a high frequency channel that was bringing forward a lot of information, but the information that she was bringing forward was like awakening, not only awakening my channel, but I was like getting stuff I wanted to like ping off of and like contribute to the conversation. And so it's not just Arcturian frequency, it's got a Council of Nine kind of flavor, speaking from first contact administrators, and those aren't just Arcturian. There's different flavors of families that hold those keys, and so they were part of who was kind of starting to talk through me, as well as lineages with keys related to ancient wisdom and our collective human mission. So that's what I've been tapping into while mulling on this topic and thinking about how to bring it forward. And so I think what we could do is I've selected like a 20 or 30-minute snippet from this interview that I think that we could easily co-create with this co-channeling and play that snippet. And when it feels right to kind of interrupt the video, we can jump in with our own kind of channeled wisdom and piggyback off of one another as we co-create together. And so would love to hear thoughts on that, if it feels aligned.
Yes, let's do that. Sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. Mm. So for the recording on this one, can you make your screen so that it shows us two side by side with the video? Like on your gallery view, can you slide it so that we can kind of see all four of us relatively equal to each other? Or production logistics.
Yeah, hopefully it records like that, doesn't it? Well, we'll see.
On
I
your
got it.
computer, it should. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, it definitely does not for the cloud, but if it's on the computer,
Yeah.
we're good.
We're
Got it.
gonna test it out and see because this is a format that I actually like. And if it works well, I would love to bring that forward into the Infinite Creators Collective through the Love Beyond Infinity um, frequency that we're calling in.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I'll go ahead and start it here. And I think when I feel aligned to jump in, I'm going to push pause. If you find something if anybody listening finds something that they feel aligned to raise their hand and like kind of interject something, feel free to just raise your hand on Zoom and I'll stop the video. Here we go.
There's huge nutrients that the body needs from the soul. That light connection must be there. It's not just what you're doing physically. So this is part of the understanding of what this is coming from. And this is generations of programming, disconnect, stepping down. So human beings overall have been in the past functioning at minimal potential, minimal. Our role is to help you re-understanding the full spectrum of all that you are, but without distortion. Mm-hmm. That's part of the healing process as well.
So just a little bit of, I guess, background on this interview, because she spends the first 20 minutes talking about like her story and who she is and who she channels. And so just for the purposes of context for this call, essentially her story resonates with me a lot. And so I'm learning about my human self as I watch and witness interviews like this. But she identifies as an Arcturian hybrid. And so she has stories about her human stuff, but then she also has stories about her Arcturian stuff, and she kind of bridges them together in a way that makes a lot of sense. And so she's talking about here the human experience and the purpose of the Arcturians in hybridizing essentially themselves and coming here in human bodies to help to align frequencies and weave light and all of the things that we do every day. So I really resonate with her story about hybridization, and I'll post a link to this full video if anyone wants to go back and watch the whole thing.
What does a human being operating at max potential look like for you?
Look at all the masters of light, Kuan Yin, the master of compassion, Master Buddha, who have helped me a lot in my life to remind me of what universal joy and the power of it.
I'm just going to stop right here because my human has some little bells going off whenever we invoke deities. Because some of the research that I've done has taught me that they're just like us and just like all of our timeline work, there's always infinite spectrum of possibilities. And so it's very important to be intentional about the energies in which you call in. And so I guess just a quick little Leni side note here that if we're looking at deities or the energies of that, like I'm personally only calling in the highest, most aligned frequency of those identifications through the unified field as attuned with our divine perfection, our divine alignment, and with the truth and purity in the unified field as aligned with the unconditional love in our hearts. And so it is.
Master Sananda, that you know on this planet, mostly by Master Jesus or Yeshua. We know him as Master Sananda, Master Sanat Kumara, who is in charge of this beautiful etheric retreat known as Shambhala, and so forth and so forth. If you look at all of these masters of light, when human being, not if, when human being return to understanding your full capacity and being able to bring that into conscious awareness, practical way, and being able to live in that benevolence every day, in that cultivation, the way we see it in the future aspect of the human race is you're going to be reflecting that light of the masters of light. And eventually the human race in that aspect of full operating in full awareness, multidimensional awareness, living your living knowledge, being in complete alignment with yourself and all life and reverence for all life, you're going to be teachings, other intergalactic group that comes from different interdimensional space, places in the multiverse you have no memory of. They'll come to you to understand, what is this aura energy? We want to learn, because that civilization may come to you and says, we have lost that connection, that spark connection, and we want to know what is the point of origin of the universe. And we feel that you have the answer. And you would say, come, we'll teach you. We'll show you what it feels like, because we have gone through thousands of years of evolution, coming from a point of complete descendant into a retracted into minimum potential, separating, feeling despair, grief, all of it, to the point of we have returned to complete potential. And now we understand that we are all part of everything. And we will teach you the pathway. That's the potential we see for human beings.
I'm just going to stop right there and let that sink in for a second, because I don't know that I've ever really grasped this idea of contact from the perspective of essentially a civilization that is me coming to this version of me to say, hey, we forgot, we lost our way, can you show us the way? And just being that example and that model to model the light in that frequency or channel or whatever you want to call it. So I thought that was a really interesting point to be made there. Feel free to stop me if you have additional thoughts before I go on any of these.
And through an Arcturian lens or understanding, what is that point of origin of the universe that you just briefly touched on?
When we talk about the point of origin of the universe, it's a point of reference that just illustrate the understanding that we are all part of the one-dimensional aspect of the prime creator. If you look at the analogy of a tree of life, and we love to use that analogy because it can relate to any philosophies in this world, and we can visualize a beautiful tree of life. So imagine for a moment this ultimate tree of life. The tree of life is the oneness of all. It's everything. It's omnipotence, omnipresence. It's the all there is that we hear a lot about, or what we call the supreme creative force of all, or the prime creator, internal source. So that's the one dimension of all, that tree of life. Within the tree of life, there's different structures of branches and sub-branches that the prime creator expand, learn. It's all about experiential. This is how the soul learns. This is how the soul develops. It's experiential energies, movement, interactions. So the tree of life in itself, even though it is still the one ultimate tree of all, has a multitude of sub-branches. And these branches may be a plane of existence. One plane of existence may represent a multitude of dimensional experiences or dimensional systems designed for that fractal of the prime creator to experiment different aspects. Whether it's remaining formless and pure consciousness, I've seen that. Whether it's to experiencing some form, like a group like the Antares, they primarily vibrate on a 7th dimension and above. They like to maintain themselves in higher resonance. So physically, they're not really physical beings, but more these beautiful eternal beings who still have a conscious understanding of who they are within our global consciousness as entire's. We know because we work with them quite a bit. But when you expand into these branches, a different plane of existence, we have different purpose. And then the branch that we're in right now is called the plane of physical expression. This is part of Blu-ray. So that plane of physical existence has a multitude of sub-branches interweaving into itself. And along the way, there's this tiny branch within a place you call the Milky Way, a little tiny branch. And that tiny branch is your solar system with all the other celestial beings known as planet. And then here goes Mother Gaia. So all the souls coming to that tiny branches within that big branch of the plane of existence have come to understand what the self-identity means, what it means to have a lower self, and then return in memory to return into your higher self and the reconciliation between. It's a place where we can come and learn from karmic lessons, learn from other branches or other lifetimes or time soul cycles, as we call it. And you come and we learn. Are you still part of the ultimate tree of the one-dimensional aspect of the Prime Creator? Yes, of course you are. But when you are in that tiny branch on a planet, living your life every day, to you, you look around you, you look at the stars, you look at the intergalactic beings, you understand the celestial presence, masters of light. This is form your reality.
I got something.
But your reality.
Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't really she kind of breezed past it, like the different kind of reasons why, or like, she said karmic lessons. And to me, that doesn't really resonate personally. That doesn't hit. It feels like, as she said it, like a bit of a distortion. You know, when you're in the unified field of consciousness, when you're calling in unity consciousness, right? Karmic lessons incarnating for, I do see like this, and it could just be a language thing, but to me it felt kind of intentional. She was saying quite a few things, and I was like, okay, resonates. It definitely does not. Coming for karmic lessons, even the frequency of karma for me. Plenty of people have channels on karma specifically. So I just wanted, that was just something that I was like, hey, if we're calling in an undistorted, and everybody is welcome to their own channel. But yeah, I just wanted to say that out loud into the field. I was like, I don't necessarily agree with karmic lessons per se. I think we can work through things together, but I don't know necessarily if karmic lessons is like probably the frequency that we're weaving in for the purposes of what we're discussing here. And I know that was a bit long-winded.
No, not at all. I agree with you in the sense that it's something that we have closed out and are now weaving in a new octave of experience. But I think where she's coming from is, like you said, it may be just a little bit of a language thing, but like people get the idea of what karma is and means. And so maybe just in speaking about it in a way that people can relate to, like the majority of the collective can relate to this idea of what this is. But you're right in that the updated frequency of it is, maybe that's why we came here for a time, and those cycles are now completed, and we put the exclamation mark on the end and wrapped it up with a pretty bow, and we're all done with that now. And now we get to create the new future. And I guess maybe that's the line of consciousness of kind of where we're at right now, is like that belief of why we're here and whether it's done and what our purpose is. Like maybe that is in itself, we're seeing the spectrum on that. And so just honor and gratitude for those of us that are aligned with the unified field and holding a space of completion and integrity and honor and purity around that. Because thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, just harmonizing, collapsing, closing the need for karmic loops, you know, as a spiritual practice or lesson, because it really was just like, ooh, it's like it's really hard not to say something about that when I hear, and everybody's welcome to their own channel, I'm sure, you know, Emilio and her are very, I'm sure they're successful people, but it's just like the verbiage and the frequency matters, especially when you're weaving at the highest, right? The highest level, the purest level, the undistorted, the unified field. So for me, it was just like, man, I really, but yeah, thanks for pausing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I with that, because it is important distinction to recognize and to close out. You said the loops of karma. With that, I also want to add into that weaving, how about all unnecessary loops, all infinite loops, all loops of any kind that are not in service to us individually and or collectively, that are ready to be recognized, witnessed, harmonized, and released, calling on our master harmonisticians to help us out with that process as we hold this beautiful space and allow all that energy to flush.
Yeah, the need to do
Allowing
things
it,
the long and hard way as well.
yeah, just allowing it all to wash down the drain. With love and gratitude for the lessons and the learnings that it has taught us. I also wanted to say, as she was describing the tree of life, that I would love to initiate Let's Play a Game here. Because Let's Play a Game, I want to see everybody's channeled art on what this grand tree of life might look like. Because there's lots of different aspects and elements to it. And I think it relates to everybody in different ways. And so I think that would be a really fun topic for Let's Play a Game. So hashtag Let's Play a Game. And let's see, I decided to write down timestamps on those, but my tech is wonky today. So can we have a little timestamp button right here for hashtag Let's Play a Game?
Or time size soul cycles, as we call it. And you come and we learn. Are you still part of the ultimate tree of the one-dimensional aspect of the prime creator? Yes, of course you are. But when you are in that tiny branch on a planet, living your life every day, to you, you look around you, you look at the stars, you look at the intergalactic beings, you understand the celestial presence, masters of light. This has formed your reality. But your reality is still within this ultimate tree of life. I hope that makes sense if we explain it that way.
It does. And I love that you brought up the lower self and the higher self. The way I see it is like the animalistic versus the divine. And there is this merger of the two in this dimension, in this physical expression of reality. But at what point does a species or even a planet say, we no longer need to learn from the lower self, and it begins to shed maybe those layers of the lower self and embody greater aspects of its divinity?
Yes, what you speak of, Emilio, it's part of the re-ascension. It's the reascending into a higher state of multidimensional awareness about yourself. There's a shedding of a certain form of identity. Look at the mental construct, just the complexity of the human mind and the human construct. You have the conscious mind that tells you what reality is about. It affects your perception, your perspective, how you learn, how you relate, how you communicate, how you feel your place, not only on this planet, in this world, but within the multiverses and even beyond. That if you look at different aspects of the mental construct, you would say the house of ego. Well, it serves a purpose. The house of ego will bring you, where you talk about the lower me identity, we call this the third dimensional personality self. It's where it's the instinctual mind. This is where there's a lot of story stuck, emotions, trauma, whether shock patterns, everything is very much encoded. And in turn, it's going to affect different part of the cognitive faculties of the brain. Again, minimal, instinctual, reactiveness, survival. Once you start to shed those aspects, you're opening different aspects of your brain abilities. Then higher consciousness really opens up. So the more your awareness or your consciousness open, your body structures evolves with you, meaning higher function of the brain, different part of the brain lobes. You start to release the reptilian part of the brain. That is the instinctual, reproduction, food. I need to protect myself. It's the me, my territory. As long as I'm fed, I'm good. That's instinctual. And you need to release that to move into a more global conscious to see that your presence, what you do every day, what you think, how you feel, how you eat, the way you breathe affect the entire ecosystem. You start to re-understanding that there's a global planetary aspect to you. And you start to open that up. That means your frequencies start to become more refined. What you generate, what you radiate, the glow, we can start to see, there are different stages. Now we can introduce certain concept or knowledge. Now we can start to feel, we can help the earth to bring the next level of frequencies. Or there's a dimensional shift, and we look how the adaptability or the response of it is. So to your point is everything becomes an invitation to realize, where am I? Where am I vibrating? Where am I consciously invested? This is going to be very important moving forward because the earth has shifted. She's no longer in the same dimensional timeline. There's been a shift recently. And that means that it's going to ask all of us to reattune consciously the symptom, physical, your nervous system, your emotional responses. Are you allowing your cognitive faculties expanding? How you relate, how you speak, everything. So yes, everything becomes a beautiful invitation to understand, where am I right now? And what is it I am most affected by? And again, you have to look within your own internal system. Am I still oscillating between those instinctual responses that makes me feel more safe and comfortable? Because this is too much, the frequency is too high, I cannot go there. Yes, you can. It's just, again, it's allowing with universal compassion, benevolence, with complete self-love. Those keys become master keys of understanding who you are and giving you the gift of ability to say, I have everything that I need within yourself to really succeed and reach and co-manifest your highest timeline, your highest potential. It's been generations of preparation to come to this point, and we are now at that point. I don't know if you feel it already.
I think we all feel it. We all feel it for sure. And I'm curious to know, Vivian, what have you learned about human emotions in the years that you've been here?
That's a profound question, and I appreciate you. The human emotions is one of the most potent energy that you have. In fact, there's many of the species who have chosen to evolve to different branches of dimensional evolution or evolutionary cycle. And some of them have gone very deep in technology advancement, but without a consciousness that follows it. Some of them became non-organic or semi-organic and semi-robotic. But one thing that we have observed, one commonality which relate to the human emotion in a moment, one common point we have observed from all of these other species or group consciousness is that at some point in their evolution, they're stopped in their tracks and they realize we feel like we've lost something along the way. So what do? They utilize these technology to look in the timeline. And I'll tell you one planet they find the most is Earth. Earth in the past, Earth in the future self, Earth in your current present position. Why is that? Because the Earth humans or human beings are known for their emotions. And there's something about their emotional capacity, your emotional capacity, that allows you to stay connected to the very fabric of your being and the creator. You are emanating that light emanation, this living light. And those species will come back to what you call your past or your present position in your timeline and want to interact and understand. So in reality, without knowing it, you're teaching these species how to rekindle, how to remember the pathway of organic evolution so they can return to that ultimate tree of light that we talk about. It's all about soul evolution. It's all about returning home, returning to our profound cosmic self. Your human emotions have the capacity to accelerate that evolution or keep you trapped in old stories, keeping you trapped in mechanism and repeating some historical loops. I'll give you a prime example, if I may.
Yes.
As you know, we talked about it before we went live. I just recently came back from the south of Germany when I hosted one of my annual retreat with the Octane University members. The goal of going to Germany, the calling that I received from the Octane Council was to extract a depleted morphogenetic field. And that morphogenetic field is an old blueprint that still keeps soul, a generational of soul, trapped into the old mechanism of fear, loss, war, the war energy.
Question for my Kemet friends. Anyone can answer this. There's something about the holographic nature of what she just said about closing down blueprints that I feel like is really relevant specifically to our trip to Africa, the lands of Kemet, formerly known as Egypt. I'm going to keep saying that until it sticks because formerly known as Egypt feels much more aligned for me personally. But to each their own. So, but something about this really resonates with me because we know that, I mean, you brought it up earlier, like we're gritting the end of loops, of karma, of war, of like all of these things. And so my question is, how many of you that went on the trip with us feel like maybe this is something we did while we were there on the completion portal of 999? I open the floor to any thoughts about that because most of us are still in that like post-integration phase where things are just trickling in. We did a lot. And so I'm actually going to keep opening the floor to stories about that trip. So for anyone listening that was there with us, please feel free to bring your stories to any of these calls because it's just going to continue to unfold. Like the way that I'm seeing it, our energies and our weavings and what we did and brought forward by bringing within us was, to me, the way I'm experiencing it is an energy of, it's more like rebirth than completion because completion is only part of it. Completion is what we did in person in the physical while we were there. But with every ending, there's a new beginning. And so I'm going through a lot of rebirth right now as we sort of calibrate back to what we knew and know as the quote unquote real world. as we honor the malleability of what it is to be us, what it is to be human, what it is to be an infinite creator in a physical body. Um, yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point about that because it felt really relevant and something about, I forget what she says about a hologram, but it feels a little bit like origami, where you like fold the thing until it like becomes a swan, and then all of a sudden you've got a swan. Well, it's in one dimension, it's a flat piece of paper, but in the one where you tediously folded it and made it perfect, it's a pretty little swan. So, so just lots of love and gratitude to our pretty little swans. Feel free to unmute and share anything if you have something about that.
I'll unmute and share, even though I wasn't on the trip with y'all in the physical, being the grid worker that I am, and also just kind of like being able to kind of like witness all this architecture from all places and all people, right? There was a lot of architecture changing, and it is very much like origami in my vision, and it is very multidimensional. Um, and I'm still seeing it. Like I'm, it's all really still happening for not just us, but I think even on like a deeper, like a greater collective, whether they're conscious of it or not, there are people who are shifting and shedding, especially as we enter into a new season, right? Like in the equinox and everything. And so I'm very much aware of like in my channel and like but the gifts that I hold that yeah, there's a lot of architecture changing and there's a lot of combining, I would say too. Like it's, I wish I could trace it to be able to say like, oh, this part, this piece connects over here with this person's piece, but like I have an understanding and a knowing that that's actually how it's all, they're all magnetizing and crystallized. So yeah, I mean, I just jumped in. I just got out of a session and I'm able to like be here for like the next like 30 minutes or so. But I love didn't catch the beginning of this, but I love Emilio's interviews with people. And what when you paused it, I did feel like something was there in what she was saying, but I don't know if I've fully pieced it together and where she was going with it or what, but I felt something. So very interesting.
Yeah, thank you for jumping in with that. And I didn't see you come in, so I'm glad you're here, and we're glad that you can weave with us for a little bit. And I'm sure you'll love to catch the replay. And so thank you for being here. And when with the energy of what it is that she's kind of dropping in, part of me, what I'm feeling is like it's one of those things that's like pieces of the grand mystery that, like you said, we're piecing together. And as it magnetizes, experiences towards one another, I just see it being one of those things that unfolds as we walk it forward. So thank you for sharing all that, the divine unfolding. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, one thing too I wanted to mention as well, thank you, Rachel and Lenny too, is she says something very important here. Essentially, she mentions that she was tasked with, I think the verbiage is extracting a depleted timeline of the morphogenetic field, essentially, which I found very interesting. We talked about examples that we're kind of encountering in our own like trips and with the things that are happening right now, but she uses very specific verbiage, which I think is, it matters. The frequency matters, right? And maybe you don't maybe you're not exactly tuned into that specific verbiage, but use whatever resonates the most with you, whether it's like closing, collapsing, calling in, weaving. But yeah, I think like the way that she talks and what the frequency of what she says like matters specifically where we're at. So thanks.
I want to jump in real quick because like that's what I like entered around the time that she started talking about this. And of course, me being like a psychotherapist and also very connected to the emotional body and the nervous system and also what that looks like in the grid, it is very much a morphogenetic field. But it, to me, like I view it like music. So it's kind of like tuning like the chords a little bit to kind of flow so they're all one symphony. And I don't know in human words how I can even describe like, well, how do I know that? Or how do I know what's out of place? But they kind of like think of like a children's like, I don't know, like version of like what music looks like. And it's like you want to make all of it sparkle in a sense. And it just kind of weaves in this really cohesive, I don't know, it's just this feeling of like, oh yeah, that's good. That's like that I receive from, my channel, like, oh, this is where it's everything is reflecting in its peak truth, yet all one as one. And that's kind of how I've been able to kind of like look at it. So I always find it interesting to hear other people talk about these things because they're really, the language is very interesting to use, especially because sometimes my channel will be like, well, no, that doesn't fit because it tries to keep it like a multidimensionally like true, like on multiple layers and levels. But what she's talking about is very important, especially when it comes down to the architecture and like the morphogenetic fields of like what frequency is and like how it works together, how it bleeds through, and what it can do to harmonize, but also I don't really love the word collapse. All that we use it a lot, and I do use it, but like I want another word, or I want a different word because I think it has a frequency in it too, where people are like, oh, it's just like just knock it down. It's like it's a little bit more graceful than that. There's a little bit more reverence for all of it too, because not everything is meant to be collapsed. Sometimes it's meant to be harmonized, witnessed, and um, like recalibrated. And some architecture is meant to just be recycled back to source. But yeah, it's just interesting to hear when other people use words about it because it seems like everybody's kind of talking about something very similar, but the language and lexicon is nice to see that it grows. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for adding that flavor and frequency. And I don't disagree with you that the word collapse, I don't want to say limiting, but it can be because like you mentioned, some things are meant to be recycled and some are not. And so I really like the word extract here, and maybe it tickles my science roots because extracting something is very surgical. So when it comes to reverence, I think that aligns. And so just in the energy of because from that point you can do multiple different things with it in terms of harmonizing or something else. And so lots of gratitude for all the eyes on this overarching theme, and to our master harmonisticians as well for helping us to not only complete the task but to witness it as it happens. So thank you.
World War II, you would be surprised how much these mechanism was so strong that it was a quantum release within the field, and we have succeeded, and I've seen it on many levels. So that emotional component, how traumatic and impactful that timeline has been on the Earth history, has even to this day, we're still creating an echo chamber, an entanglement of emotional attachments, even for generations who have gone well beyond the concept of war. But it was an echo in their genetic markers on the ancestral level, to their grandparents, through the imprint in the land. Even the Tree Nations, to their roots, they remembered. Because the moment I arrived there physically, they start talking with me. So I knew what we were looking at. So our goal was to come there with a group of light-minded people. When we came together with the intention to release this quantum entanglement around that very old historical timeline, and to be able to allow evolution to come through. So there's no longer a transmission of that same loop coming, soul incarnating after soul incarnation over and over. They were prevented from evolving. And we did that just about a month ago.
Wow. And I know right now that you're based in Arizona, which you've
I want to make the bold claim that we did that too, but for all the generations from the end of Atlantis all the way through today. So she's talking about this bubble of energy around specifically World War II. And I think that whatever they did was modeled in the field as a jumping point or a platform or whatever you want to call it, as a layer of completion. But as with anything, because there's cycles within cycles, it's also layers within layers. And so just a huge shout out to all my chemet friends for all of the amazing work that we did, even not yet realized, because what we did was big, 100%.
I'm going to jump in as somebody who witnesses the grid and say it's not a bold claim. I don't want to make it a bold claim anymore. It's just a reality that yes, you did, and we are. But from a grid level, sometimes it's like in certain sites, so then they all have to kind of weave together of like, okay, so you took one, like you can take a node that and where it interconnects. And then like she could have a node where it interconnects wherever she is in the grid. And then the more that these harmonize over time and in time, some people leave time too. In the combination of it all, it's a lot easier, quicker when we're all working together, right? Like because we are all in this together. But please know that yes, many things that we've done in many places, not just commit like all the time, like actually do land and anchor. Um, and they I want to say it's like seeding and then blooming, right? Like so gives new life. And yeah, I want to just confirm that. I also just want to say it doesn't have to be a bold claim like you are, we have been doing that and it is landing.
Yeah, thank you for stating that, and thank you for making the distinction. And I liked what you said about seeding and blooming. And as you're witnessing and recognizing that it is a big deal or not, it is, and awesome, good job. Like my whole vortex is just like feeling that, and so just gratitude for all of that, gratitude for witnessing it, and all those that have been supporting us in the field. Thank you.
said
One team, one dream. Am I right?
holds one of the most ancient grid networks on the planet, and that when you tune into it, you can access timelines of memories and records that span far beyond the present age. And you've also said in another interview that shortly after that you arrived there in Arizona, you had an experience where you were transported to the golden age of Egypt. And I just want to compare for a moment, in a sense, that you just experienced in Germany a very negative timeline with the remnants of a world war. What was it like experiencing a timeline of a golden timeline in ancient Egypt, and how that gave you maybe a different perspective about where we're headed as a species?
Indeed, Egypt played another role because today's Egypt, I was there physically on site 2 years ago, and we went through many temples. And one thing I've shared also previously, but it's good to be reminded right now, is how the coexistence of the distorted step down frequency of Egypt is still coexisting with the unified Egypt. So if you think about it think of it this way, there's two parallel timelines that coexist. And so when we arrived, we as my collective and we come and I set foot in Arizona, right away, the consciousness of the grids here show me the timeline of the golden age of Egypt, which is called a unified Egypt. And what does it mean, a unified Egypt? It's that right after the fifth cycle of Atlantis, when the flame of ascension was taken through Egypt at the early stages with the school of mystery, with the high priest, the high priestess, intergalactic being would coexist peacefully with the Egyptian at the time. There was not a big deal to talk to Syrians or to see blue beings walking through the temple, working with the high priest about recreating crystal technology for healing frequencies. The goal was to usher Gaia or this planet to continuing into a higher organic timeline of evolution where the coexistence with other interdimensional beings with the human race would be very daily life, part of your day to day.
So I just got a really cool image as she's talking about this because if anyone's watching this and isn't aware that I just got home from a 3-week excursion to the lands of Kemet, formerly known as Egypt. It was an incredible experience, and I have lots of pictures coming in just probably slideshow format at some point very soon. But I'm just imagining like a lengthy, tall blue being walking through some of these giant structures. Like these temples are huge. And so I'm just kind of thinking back on some fun memories from the trip and from experiencing these temples together as a group, and particularly the ones that are attuned to some of their multidimensional galactic aspects. I'm just like flipping through the group in my mind, and I'm going just like remembering different, like being in different places, like around different people and like certain people walking by, and I'm just like we're like, you guys, we seeded. It's like Rachel said, seeding and blooming. We're seeding and blooming. We walked through the completion portal, throwing all of our seeds everywhere, and I'm just reveling in the blooming, I guess, in my awareness at the very least at the moment.
Of teaching was brought from the stars to, in terms of organic advanced technology, conscious teachings, new harmonic of teachings, and installing new way of building, whether it's temple, whether it's irrigations, whether it's agriculture. So that beautiful coexistence was again very natural until the distortion came, and then there was a split in the timeline or a fracture in the timeline. And then that aspect of the unified Egypt was pushed out of alignment, and slowly over time, Egypt sunk deeper into that fragmentation. So when I originally arrived almost 20 years ago now to Arizona, right away my holographic light body consciousness was taken. I traveled right away in the speed of thought in that unified timeline, and I understood that eventually we're going to help to reunify, to rebalance, to realign those two-dimensional timelines together, to be able to heal the distortion that has taken over for generations. And when I physically, personally was there, just the mini temple, the moment we enter on site, the guardians of time will come talk to me, or interdimensional presence will come and ask me. They asked me the same question no matter where we were, was what happened to this place? This is not how we remember that timeline. And I had to explain to these guardians, or an aspect of the higher fifth dimensional frequency of the Hathor or other intergalactic groups, so remember the unified timeline, that is as part of the distortion that we're here to come and help to heal. So this is why I knew from a long time that I had to come back and return to the desert. And I had to live in a place where the sun was very predominant, because the solar energy is also helping to rejuvenate and balance my physical form. And as a Nocturian, we are very close to the great central sun. So that luminosity for us is a way to rejuvenate ourselves, to keep it simple. So living in a place where it's sunny, intense sun all the time, it's been incredible to accelerate my evolution and the maintenance physical form as well. I hope I answered the question.
Definitely.
I just wanted to make a quick point here about our light body. I wasn't really tapped into this until Fate made a comment about an experience that he had with essentially activating the light body as like a guided meditation. And he was saying that he would go out and like sunbathe and listen to this meditation and like kind of create a routine around that, whether that was daily or whatever the case may be. And so it was also something that we noted while we were traveling there, was that we were out in the sun a lot. And I'm really grateful that normally I don't tan, I burn. And I'm really, really grateful that I didn't really burn while we were there, but I was able to get a fair amount of sun. And so my body has been rejuvenated in the light. And I just wanted to remind everyone that it's a really great tool for expansion and calibration and activation in service to our overall evolution, to get out in the sun in whatever way that feels most aligned and safe for you. I definitely have to put sunscreen on in order for that to work for me. But sunbathing and sun gazing are like my two favorites. So, and again, being safe with the sun gazing, I prefer watching the sun when it's rising and setting, when the UV energy is least potent. But it has also been an amazing way for me to receive downloads and information, and just really stay in alignment with my inner world.
And I'm curious also, what would you say is the root of those distortions that started coming up in ancient timelines and that are coming up again? Are we on the brink of another fracturing of the timelines right now? How do you see it in that way?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I want to go back a little bit again, back in Egypt. It's something I personally experienced, feet on the ground. And there was one temple, and I forgot the name because we went to so many. But one of the temple in particular, I remember entering, and we had a large group, and it was, a scholar and guys talking about their Egyptian history, and I honor that. But my Octarian father in my group says, "You're not here to listen to that history. There's something we want you to show you." So I exited the temple, and it was like an inner chamber outside. You can still be within a temple, but just on outside. And it was like a substructure. You can walk all around. And on the walls, there was a lot of history scripted right there on the wall. And one thing that I knew, because when I stood there, aspect of the Galactic archive came back to me, and my memory reawakened. So at some point, there's a conjunction that took place in the timeline during ancient unified Egypt, and other intergalactic groups are more of serving the self. They're more in the polarity aspect of their evolution. Came to the planet and saw the potential of what these Egyptian human beings were. They saw the potential was put in place. They could see too the timeline potential of where this planet were headed and the resources here. And so there was a conflict between the enlightened spiritually galactic groups who are here to support humanity, to live peacefully with you, to help you to teach, evolve, take your rightful place in this beautiful galactic community and even beyond. And there are those who prefer to use you for self-purposes, utilizing your light, harvesting on your emotions, playing on your instinctual mind, fear, energy, sensitivity, and looking at the potential that you carry in your DNA. If you were to reach that potential, you would no longer be able to be manipulated as easily, because you will know, and you will have the knowledge and the understanding how to counteract this. So on this wall, I saw written that history where these intergalactic group coming from other timelines, again, more serving of the self rather than service to others, the polarity and the pendulum swing of negativity in the polarity of I utilize, I serve what you can do for me, came and says, we want to enslave humanity. And we say, oh, no, there's no enslavement here. It's just empowerment, sovereignty, teachings, evolution, the bioenergy of oneness. And there was a conflict. And then I was pulled back out of the galactic archive and returned to my body. And my Archangel Father says, take a deep breath, because I can feel in your heart you're very engaged. And I experienced, and my heart was pouncing hard in my chest, because I can feel, no enslavement, no, we can't allow that. And I was pulled back on that memory.
Okay, Kemet friends. This story reminds me of the Etfu temple, where there was that chamber in the very center of the temple that had the, I think it was very golden cow energy, and all of the falcon statues outside for Horus were ginormous and amazing. But then when we walked around the outside, there was like, gosh, how do I describe this? The temple itself was, you come up to it and you pass through this giant wall into like an open courtyard. And then you walk straight through the courtyard and into this temple space. And there's sort of a few different rooms and passageways as you walk through. There's an inner space with rooms around the kind of exterior wall of the inner space. And then you can go in between that wall, that outer wall. You go outside, and so you have the inner space that I just described. And then as you go outside, there's an outer wall. And maybe corridor is the right word for this space. And then another outer wall beyond that. And so, welcome back, Rachel. I'm just describing the Etfu temple because she's telling a story about the inscriptions on the wall at one of the temples she was at. And I don't know if she's specifically referring to the Etfu temple, but this is what I'm being reminded of, because we were shown a story that was inscripted on these giant walls in between this very large corridor that goes around the entire perimeter of this temple complex. And as the story goes, it was essentially a story about how the service to self energy was quote unquote defeated and essentially brought back into the light. And she's talking about this distortion in the timeline and how it created sort of a rift, but that the purpose of the rift was to have the loop of experience then come back in to itself and be healed. And so just wanted to see if that triggered any memories for anyone that's watching the playback. Any of those particular symbols that may have stood out to you. I'm just getting very much a feeling of that temple representing this story that she's talking about, this memory that she's recalling. And so I'm just allowing that to filter into my awareness and land wherever it's ready to land.
And I was returned to my body. So that's what happened. It's more complex than that. I'm just summarizing based on what I saw. It's written all over the temples. If you really stop to listen to it and read and let the imprint of that history that is still vibrant be revealed to you, you'll see. There's been a distortion, and at some point, then the planet descended even deeper in the third density. And then we're here to restore and return and release ourselves from that. But in a very simplified way, that's part of the reasons.
Have you had the opportunity to go back into the Galactic archives and witness or study what happened after there was that friction between the service to self beings and the service to others beings? How did that play out? And is that still playing out in this timeline where we are right now?
Indeed, it does. Now, Now, on a higher level, on a more divine design level, we have to understand that everything is unfolding for a purpose. Everything is serving, whether it's allowing maybe younger soul or other species who have disconnected themselves from Creator to relearn again what it feels like to be the oppressor and the oppressee. There's always a learning curve behind it. And so it's very complex how this planet has been declared as a perfect terrain to help to learn from what polarity, fragmentation, physical incarnation, embodying an identity that we call the lower self or the 3D personality self. It was a chance to start to remembering what these lessons are. What is the opportunity to rise again? What is the opportunity to start to connect with this new blueprint of relationship to yourself, the planet, your history, and even the intergalactics and beyond? So there's been a lot of help, support, whether it's through the many, many councils of light, the Star Regency Council. There's a lot of support that has been shown and provided to the planet ever since to help to return and release that. And there's many souls who reincarnate from different star systems like Orion who come to return to heal and learn the lessons so they can also evolve and shift out of that polarity. I don't know if you ever heard of that Lyran teaching tool that's called the reintegration, the 0 point of shifting into a positive polarity to a negative polarity and into a point of integration. Where you are at that point right now in the timeline is a time to return into complete integration again.
Is that technically law of zero? I want to say yes. Because so my understanding of the law of one is as I picture it in my mind, I'm kind of standing in the middle and I'm balancing the polarities and dualities that are around me and moving through me, and I'm you want to call it collapse it into this 0 point that is me. But
I'm
the
gonna
law of
jump in.
zero, yeah, please do, because I know you're well versed in this.
Well, I don't say I'm well versed. It's just the way that it was taught to me, kind of by my channel, is just okay, let's bring it to the origin point. So it to me that's a 0 point. Let's bring it to the void. Let's bring it to the womb. And then when I say law of one, it's bringing all into 1 0 point. Does that make sense? I don't know, but for me, that's what it represents. It represents a neutral position for all to exist without added frequency, we'll say, or judgment. Allowing all to be what it is in a neutral way, and then law of one for me is to make all of all have that at the same time. I don't know if that resonates or not.
Yeah, I was because she's talking about specifically a technique, and I guess reharmonization itself still basically is, there still is separation, right? If you're reharmonizing, in a way. I mean, I think it's so close. It probably doesn't even really matter, in the grand scheme of things. I think the technique itself that she's describing is within the frequency framework of law of zero. That's probably maybe a better way to state it, because if you want to really split hairs, any separation period, I guess, would be outside, or polarity. But
yeah, and I do think it's an important distinction to make. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's an important distinction primarily because we are so intentional about the words we use and the meaning behind them, that I'm partly for my own awareness and recognition of exactly the mechanics of what it is that we're talking about, because the way Rachel just described it, that also to me sounds like law of zero, just because of the energy of bringing the polarity into a 0 point allows you to step beyond the polarity in order to resolve the polarity. To me, the law of one is about bringing things into that are polarized into balance, but it doesn't, the way I understand it, doesn't really address the next step, which is taking things back to the 0 point and harmonizing. And so I think all three of us are saying pretty much the same thing. I just think it's an important thing to mention because I hear a lot of people talk about the law of one, but I also think that on some level, the law of one is part of the distortion that we are bringing our awareness to and actively extracting from our reality. And so I just wanted to have that little discussion. Thank you for popping in there. And it probably would be a good topic for maybe debate in a larger group. Debate's maybe not the right word, but discussion in a larger group just to get more flavors of frequency. I think we could do a whole episode just on that conversation.
I just want to, I'm on the highway, so sorry if you hear like, I don't know, car sounds. But I would
Okay.
love to have that discussion. Like, I think that that's like a really important discussion for how like language, right back to that language of just like, we say these things, but like, do we all know what each other means? Like, and what it means for one person versus the other person, right? Like, and how that operates. But I do want to add like law of one to me is that like all creation, like as comes from, like we're all part of all, if that makes sense in any sense. I don't know.
100%. Yeah, I am one with all that is, and all that is lives through me. So that's the paradigm. And I agree with you that it is important to be cognizant of our language because without that, and we've talked about this before with many different things, but without the awareness and recognition of what it is that you're speaking into existence, you may be creating those infinite loops or lengthier loops, perhaps that we are talking about closing down. Like we can't close it all down without encroaching on free will. And so it's like this balance between what we can do as like collective, like guardians of collective energy, like if you will, um, versus on our individual, what we create as an infinite creator. And so that awareness of what we're creating through our words so that we aren't accidentally, spelling those polarities back into our existence as we're actively, attempting to step beyond the duality and polarity. So just being aware of that sort of paradox and dynamic there for sure.
And this is why we call it the reascension process. You're reascending more and more in consciousness and frequencies and realization in breakthroughs, which has nothing to do to rely heavily on technology and AI and other tools that think for you. It has nothing to do with that. We've seen the same pattern in other timelines. So Gaia right now is moving out of what we call the middle timeline. Okay, the middle timeline is where all the souls have been allowed to learn, whether it's from other past lives, on a galactic level, on this planet, whether it's a time of Egypt, a lot of souls have returned, whether it's to heal the conflict between Lemuria and Atlantis, or whether it's to heal what took place in the time of Babylonia or ancient Greece, Sumeria. There's a lot of these patterns or the mechanism of historical timeline that's returned now to be brought to the surface, understood with universal compassion, and being able to reintegrate them into a 0 point. This is what's called utilizing this living knowledge. And that living knowledge is what allows you to finally set yourself free from the enslavement of the mind and all these concepts put in the field, whether it's Egypt or other time. Egypt is just a point of reference. And we see that the same pattern repeating today, even in today's Egypt, and the government oppressing the population and oppressor, oppressee. Let's clear that old mechanism. Let's heal ourselves and reclaim your spiritual sovereignty.
I know that the Arcturians are highly advanced technologically, and you even say that there are very advanced ships, Arcturian ships in proximity to Earth that are here to observe, to witness, to assist. I'm curious to know if you've tuned into that history of the Arcturian civilization. To what was that breakthrough of their technology that accelerated their evolution even more? Because right now we're putting artificial intelligence as like this is the next breakthrough for humanity. I personally don't think so.
Mm-mm.
What other, you mentioned the word 0 point, and I'm curious to know if in anything in the technology of the Arcturians that is involved within that. But I'd love to just hear if you know of any of those breakthroughs that you came across.
So I'm actually going to stop the interview on a little bit of a cliffhanger there, because they were just talking about the Arcturian starships, and that was essentially our initial intention for the day was to connect with our star families and star family wisdom. And so big thanks to Emilio Ortiz and his podcast, and the lovely Vivienne Chauvet for her beautiful interview and this channeling session. If it feels relevant to anybody, drop me a line. Maybe we do a part two and finish the episode in this kind of co-channeling style. I really liked the procedure of that and how it went along. So thank you to my friends that are here live and co-creating and co-channeling this amazing message and experience. And I also loved how she described this level of experience as Gaia's middle timeline. And something that I would like to also get into discussion wise in the near future is this concept of soul walk-ins and soul walkouts. We've kind of been talking about this off and on as a group and individually and in little sidebars, and it just feels like the conversation around it is growing. So I would love to shine a spotlight on that conversation. Um, there's definitely for me personally has been some definite soul shifting around what I'm now coming to realize is maybe my aspects of this middle timeline where we came to learn and experience and, switch roles and really deepen our awareness and our experience and our education here on this realm. And so just first of all, so much gratitude to all of my soul for being all that it is. And so much love to the parts and pieces of me that are coming in with the release and the reharmonization, revitalization, restoration of the purity that is me, and sending lots of love and gratitude to the lessons and the wisdom that I've personally learned through the closing out of these experiences. And what did I want to say about that? There's something that she said about like so many souls coming in to this planet for this energy of reconciliation. And so it's just like I'm putting the pieces together in my mind on a level too about like what I've been experiencing personally with like things shifting out and shifting in and then like big stuff shifting out. And now I've got like all these like I don't even know what to call them yet. Like blueprints is a word, creation energies is a word, logistics and plans and all just like little, it's like little tidbits, like pixelating like into me of all that I am and all that I'm meant to be in this moment. And so I'm just super duper grateful for the weavings and the integrations and calibrations and all that has been and all that will be. And thank you to everyone listening to this that is witnessing me and all that is. So, did anyone else have any thoughts about the channeling specifically, or any desire to sort of connect in with any specific or particular like star family type of energy and like channel that through like our channels? If not, no big deal, but just circling back on our original intention as we move along today's call.
Yeah, I think, well, I think we're at 2 hours, so maybe purposes of time, we could maybe pick it back up or even do it on Thursday, maybe.
Well, we also started 20 minutes late, and so I
Yeah.
was just being flexible with the time.
I'm good either way. I think one of the things that came through for me is just like, it's interesting because this is a high level conversation with Emilio, right? But I'm thinking more of a collective frequency, right? Because what she's talking about is there are like massive collective themes. There's a lot of stuff happening in the collective, collective right now. And like it's just like what hits me too is like the communication, like, okay, what overall is the message that we are weaving together, right? And even like some of the I get hung up, the human side of me gets hung up rather on some of the words and the choices, the like the lower self. It's like it just like part of me is like I don't really like vibe up with some of the choices, but like overall theme I think is great and kind of like on the nose for what's happening right now with the collective for the purposes of we're now currently post autumn equinox, post eclipse. We have a new moon essentially. We just shifted into Libra season as well. So there's a lot of things happening. But I guess where I was going with this was specifically like the thing that gets me with spirituality sometimes is that we're so fancy with our words, right? We're so fancy with all of the things that we say, right? And then to me it's more about like that frequency of like who we are, like that actual like no shit embodiment, like showing up in like that not just in like what we say we are or what we perceive we are or what others see us as, but like our true individual essence, and then like weaving that, upgrading that. The word earlier we were using collapse. I got what is no shit embodiment? I got coalesce was what came through for me specifically. Like coalesce. So it's kind of a collection in a way. I was just using that as like an exclamation point for like the frequency of embodiment. Everybody has their own individual embodiment. I think with spirituality, one of the things that really kind of bugs me, especially when it comes to the collective, is like, it's like the like guru or the I know all this and that, like she's talking about weaving these different timelines specifically, and we're kind of in this what she describes as the middle timeline, and but it still some kind of pains me in a way because I'm hearing like polarity and I'm hearing duality, and I'm just like, for me it's like I guess where I was going with this is like the frequency of embodiment, not just like who we present ourselves as or who we perceive ourselves as, but like who we truly are. And like Rachel was saying earlier, for I think we were talking specifically about like communication with the lingo or the verbiage too, is like what I say and what people understand, right? What I do and who I actually am. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with this, but I'm weaving kind of in that middle ground of kind of a collective frequency. Yeah.
I want to jump in before I go into this appointment. something you said, Glenn, like really stuck out to me, and something came to mind where if you're talking about architecture in the frame of like duality, polarity, it's like exists if you have the frequency of unity. I don't know if that like lands like in the minds of others, but it makes sense to me. It's like it's always like according to the laws of creation, it's just like, okay, I'm in frequency, or like they can exist, but do they have to be separate, right? Like to me, it's about the unification and a deeper a deeper love and like a higher light, I guess I could say. Because like if anybody has to be in any type of uh overlays that don't resonate or just like loops, to me the goal in this middle earth timeline thing is to bring everything into divine balance. And then that's kind of something that also echoes from like the equinox as well, and Libra, right? So I don't know if I have exact words to answer all the questions or if all of it's even resonant, but I just wanted to pop in and say that that's like what came through when you were speaking. And I believe like for tapping into all of like our star families, because there's many, we've been many, we had many lives, right? I think it's something to keep doing in forms of like connection and reconciliation. And also just I was on a call the other day, and it was just a phone call. It wasn't like a session, but like it just kind of turned into, channeling. And I ended up like speaking like with my like Lyran family, and they're like, "Where have you been? Like, where have you been? You were supposed to come back like forever ago. Like, what's up?" Um, and that was really cool because like I've connected with like Lyra, but I like went home to my family, like my mom, my dad, like there. And that was really interesting. And there were so many gifts that I received, but also like they wanted to help. So I find that to be something important too. If people are getting things to like, no, maybe they don't know, or maybe it's unconscious, but they're like, why is this star system or whatever talking to me? It's like, tap in, check it out, see what's there, because I'm sure there's a lot there, you know? I am complete with that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really great point. And I think that that's probably the case for a lot of us. And so I really appreciate you stepping that forward and for highlighting it at this time. And I think that today has been a really great introduction and calibration to this idea of connecting with our star families in this way to like visit home and pick some stuff up and bring it into our this now awareness. And so I would love to have a continuation and a little bit more applied practice of some of these concepts. And next time we'll go deeper into connecting with our star families. We'll have an exercise around that and see what we can get through our infinite wisdom through our divine channels. So thank you so much for joining us today and really appreciate your presence. And feel free to like and subscribe and leave comments below on your experience and how you connect with this. And thank you so much for being here. And we love you so much.